Good morning, people. It's a really hot day out here, but I want to do another recap on our DRC series just to look at what has been happening all the while and what the options are for both the M23 and Joseph Kabila and Etienne Tshisekedi, President Tshisekedi. One, the M23 has advanced, as I told you. They are now moving southwards from North Kivu into South Kivu and heading further south. Well, there has been stories of a ceasefire here and there, but all this is not verified. Ear to the ground has it that the advance is still in motion in collusion with the RDF, of course. So don't believe all that you read on the press about any peace deals. And this is why President Tshisekedi is very desperate to rope in the Americans. He wants to give them more mineral rights, more mining rights, in exchange of military help. We're going to discuss that in a bit, but let's focus on the M23 first. One, the M23 leadership has now crystallized, and we know who the leaders of the M23 have. They have the military commanders, and they have a political politburo, that I would call it. You know who their president is. You know, you pretty much have an idea who they would send for any negotiation with government. I predicted this, and I told you. You have seen Burundi announcing that they're anticipating an invasion from Rwanda. I told you that as well. That if M23 moves down to Uvira, they would cut off FDLR foot soldiers from getting help from Burundi. Some of the top FDLR commanders have also been captured and handed over to Rwanda. I hope you can guess what is happening to them and the kind of intelligence information they will share. That was actually very monumental, and that gives credence to my theory that M23 is actually a Rwandese external force. M23 in itself will not capture FDLR commanders. For what purpose? They want recognition by the DRC government. Their business is not to sort out Rwandese issues. So it is the RDF inside the M23 that captured the FDLR commanders. That having been done, the FDLR now is pushed further into the interior, away from the border of Burundi. They cannot get ammo, they cannot get military help. The other force that was helping them is a South African army, which for political reasons has also left the DRC. So the FDLR is moving southwards towards FARDC, which is also helpless, and running further south. So they're opening up territory for M23 to capture. What the FDLR, the options they have because of their tribal leanings, remember they are Hutus. There are no Hutus in the DRC further south. The Hutus are in the east, that axis of South Kivu, North Kivu. That's where any remnant Hutu is found. So if the FDLR move further south, they're moving into other tribes that don't like them and don't even speak Kiswahili, which they do. They're not going to speak Lingala further south. So communication is going to be a problem. And being the military and moving into hostile territory, it's going to be very difficult for them to survive. They will either have to surrender to M23, which is advancing, or get assimilated into FARDC, which cannot happen now because of the confusion that is there. FARDC is in disarray, and its military might is grossly challenged. You have seen the president reaching out to other people to help because FARDC on its own cannot defend territory. And this is the time for M23 to hit them where it hurts and capture as much territory as possible before any foreign forces come in. Any deal is reached. The intentions of M23, I think in my earlier clips I underestimated them. I had thought Kinshasa was far-fetched for them. Now I'm seeing that possibility. It is something similar to what happened during Laurent Kabila. Rwanda and Uganda again are actively in a military process, a process that is aimed at uprooting the regime in Kinshasa. It happened with Laurent Kabila. This time it's going to happen, but they have not crystallized around a national figure. I don't think the president of M23 could be the president of DRC. I don't think so. I don't think so because further south, he's looked at as Rwandese. He might not be Rwandese by paper, by ID, but he's Rwandese by origin, and Rwandese by language, and Rwandese by physique, Rwandese by geomorphology, and Rwandese by colonial ethnic boundary placing. Yeah, so I don't think he can be the president of DRC. I don't think so. He's going to face a lot of resistance because the other Congolese will again say that Kagame is here again to take over our country, which they will not allow. So they had better, what the M23 should do now politically is to look for somebody who is much more agreeable, somebody who is more Congolese than the current individual, in my view. Joseph Kabila. You're seeing a very active entry of Joseph Kabila into this conflict, castigating Tshisekedi. Remember, I had told you that Joseph Kabila is actively supporting the M23. And he's doing that not because he has the interests of the Banyamulenge at heart. Remember, he has been president of the DRC for about 19 years and did not grant citizenship to the Banyamulenge. So it would only be clever now to assume that the interests of Banyamulenge are not very close to his heart. He wants Tshisekedi removed because Tshisekedi was his stooge. He installed him after Tshisekedi came forth in a presidential election. It is Joseph Kabila that saw into it Tshisekedi to become president. And I think they fell out. So Kabila is using the M23 to get back at Tshisekedi now. So he's leading this diplomatic, silent diplomatic coup against Tshisekedi, especially around SADC. That is why he went to South Africa and did a couple of interviews. His meetings in South Africa led to the South African force to be removed from the DRC. That gave a bit of leeway for M23. And if you check clearly and closely, you will discover that during the period that South Africa left the DRC, few top military commanders of the FDLR were captured. Not before. Which means the FDLR was enjoying protection from the South African force, as alleged by President Kagame in some past interview. I knew about this all along, I just didn't want to come out with it before this time. Tshisekedi, President Tshisekedi. Latest feed we have is that he is petitioning the Americans to join this conflict, to give him military support in exchange of a mineral minerals deal. He's offering them a minerals deal. I don't think that is a clever thing to do for two reasons. One, that would keep him in power and give him a false aura of invincibility that will make him postpone the election. And number two, wars in the DRC never end. So you don't want America in the DRC forever, mining your minerals. They could take more than you can offer them. So Tshisekedi should also think long term. Don't think the Banyamulenge and the M23 are going to be decimated today by the Americans. It's going to take about 5 years for the Americans to master territory. It's going to take a few more years for the Americans to fully understand the historical impacts and the historical instigations of this rebellion. So bringing down the Marines there could stall M23 somewhat because of firepower, but it will not stop the rebellion. And Americans, for who they are, will only protect their mines and mine as much as possible and make sure M23 does not get to Kinshasa, but not stop the rebellion. So in the net effect, political problems in the East for Tshisekedi will not end. The Americans will not stop it. So I think it is not clever. I think he's better off with a local regional force, a SADC force, yeah, because then, well, they haven't achieved much under MONUSCO and all these things, but if they come with a clear mandate, I think they could achieve more for African kinsmen in the DRC as opposed to a Western force. If you bring in Americans there, one, they will have to guarantee themselves of what you have promised them. So the first order of business for the Marines in the DRC will be to secure the prime mines. And then number two, to ensure that M23 does not advance further than it has. But they will not take the political problems of Etienne Tshisekedi, for President Tshisekedi away. The fundamental problem of Tshisekedi is his political legitimacy. He did not win an election. He knows it. The majority of Congolese did not vote for him. If elections are called today, he will be a distant five. He knows it. So this is something, he's like William Ruto. He's fighting a constant confidence deficit. And in the process, he's chasing shadows and thinking of all these big strategies that are not necessary. You don't need the Marines to fix. Tshisekedi needs to step down because he lacks the political legitimacy in the first place. So he needs to step down. When he steps down, an election is called, and a democratic election without the influence of Joseph Kabila is called all through the DRC. They elect their president, they elect their regional representatives without any manipulation. Then peace will begin to return to the DRC. It is first of all a political problem before it becomes a military one. The issue of the M23 is first of all a political problem before it becomes a military one. But now we want to make it a military problem which is now requiring political solutions, which is not true. So I think that is the way. If that does not happen, then Tshisekedi will keep limping like that until his term ends. He will not find it rosy. He just ballooned his ministers like crazy. His cabinet is huge. His Senate I mean, the government of the DRC in Kinshasa is like a mongrel. It is like a mini empire. It gobbles a lot of public resources with nothing to show for it. You know, it is tiring. It is annoying. It is disheartening. It is saddening that you have a cabinet of toy boys and call girls who just dress well and spray very nice perfume and cologne and do nothing for the Congolese people. The DRC is a country where there are people who have one meal a week in that rich country. And then you have a president who goes to celebrate his wife's birthday in Germany in the middle of a war. The M23 is advancing, and Tshisekedi is in Germany celebrating his wife's birthday. You see my frustration, and this is why the Congolese don't take him seriously, and this is why he cannot buy any confidence. You see, if you're a parent who runs away from his hungry children and goes with the little family resources that you have to have fun, for lack of a better word, out there, and then come back and expect positive and warm reception, it can happen. So I feel the Congolese, when they say that they have never participated in any democratic election, it is true. So the international community should also, that should be the first thing the international community sorts out in the DRC. That voting is free, fair, democratic. Before we arm groups, before we arm the FARDC, before we strengthen whoever, because once that is done, there will be public confidence and willingness to dismantle the local militia. I had told you before that in the DRC there are over 50 different militia. These are armed groups. So war can break up in that country at any time. Even the Americans who are supposed to come there are in for a root shock. Yeah. Even the mines that they're going to secure, some of those mines belong to those militia. It's going to be an all-out war out there. So I think my final position in the DRC with the advance of the M23 and all these negotiations going on, I think SADC and the East African Community should prevail upon President Tshisekedi to step down so that the DRC seeks a viable, accountable political legitimacy. Once that is in place, then the politicians now will sort out their country to fix the military problems that they have. It's my view. Thank you.